How America Became a Superpower. Welcome to the Tales English World Channel. Many people ask a big question. Why did America become stronger than Europe? How did the United States become a world superpower? The main reason goes back to 5 men. They are called the builders of America. These men changed the economy. They changed industry. They changed the future. Today, rich people become rich through technology. People like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. But if we look back more than 100 years, we see something different. There was one businessman who became richer than anyone else in history. Even today, no capitalist has passed him. This story starts with oil. We go back to the year 1839. A boy was born in New York. They named him John. His full name was John D. Rockefeller. John was the oldest son of William Rockefeller. William Rockefeller owned a small shop in Richford, New York. Rockefeller's father had several wives. He had children with all of them. After some time, he left all those women. This included John's mother. He took all the children and brought them to one woman. Her name was Nancy Brown. A strange family was formed. Whenever John asked his father for money, his father said he did not have any. But John really wanted to have his own money. So he worked for the neighbors. He did small jobs and earned some money. When John reached the age of 15, his father decided to move the family. They moved to Cleveland, Ohio. John had tasted the feeling of earning money. He did not want to go to school anymore. He thought school was wasting his time. So, at the age of 16, he quit school. He went looking for work. His first job was in a small office. He worked as a clerk. In return, he earned a very small salary. It was 50 cents a day. He worked there for 2 years. He worked better than many adults. He expected his salary to increase, but his boss did not raise his pay because he was a child. He worked there until the age of 18. When he turned 18, he said he would not work there anymore. He put together the money he had saved. He also took a loan. Then he opened a small office for himself. He was a born businessman. From a young age, he knew how to make money. He bought products from farmers. Then he sold them to shops. In 1857, at the age of 18, he made sales through this middleman work. His total sales reached $500,000. About $50,000 of that was profit. Soon, everyone in Cleveland, Ohio knew John. People said this 18 or 19-year-old boy did business better than all of us. Everyone accepted him. 1 year later, in 1859, something important happened. The first oil well in America was discovered. It was found near John D. Rockefeller's office. Oil was discovered, but it was not very valuable at that time. There were no cars. Oil was not very useful. The best use of oil back then was this. They turned it into kerosene. They poured it into lanterns. People used it for light. John became interested in the oil well near his office. He wanted to know what could be done with this oil. He read every piece of news written about oil. He collected them and read them carefully. John reached a clear conclusion. Crude oil itself did not have much value. The real value was in the products made from oil. At that time, the main product was kerosene. After that, many oil wells were discovered in America. The owners of these wells were ordinary people. Rockefeller looked at these owners. He saw that they were not doing well financially. He started thinking about an idea. He wanted to buy oil from them very cheaply. Then he wanted to turn it into kerosene. Most of the oil discovered in America at that time was in Pennsylvania. In 1863, a railroad was built. It connected the oil wells of Pennsylvania to Cleveland, Ohio. This railroad made it possible to bring large amounts of oil to Ohio. John D. Rockefeller had very strong business intelligence. He said now is the right time. After the railroad and the large amount of oil in Cleveland, he decided to build a refinery. In the past 6 years, he had earned enough money. He could build a proper refinery. He understood something important. Working with oil was like alchemy. You could turn almost nothing into everything. So he hired the best chemists in the area. He told them to try to produce the highest quality kerosene. What John D. Rockefeller started with $8,000 was valued about 2 years later, in 1865, at $72,500. But this was only the beginning. Rockefeller knew he was starting his empire. No one before him had thought this way. By that time, 26 other refineries had been built in Ohio, but all of them produced low-quality kerosene. Rockefeller's kerosene was so high in quality that customers wanted only his product. Sales of the other refineries started to suffer. They were in trouble. Rockefeller was extremely smart. He realized he could buy these refineries very cheaply. John's method of buying them was very interesting. He invited the refinery owners one by one. He showed them the numbers and the income of his refinery. He said, "Look how much profit we made, while you made no profit at all." He told them this: "If you sell your refinery to us, we will make your refinery successful. We will also hire you as a manager. We will pay you a good salary. This salary will be higher than the income of your refinery." The refinery owners were desperate. One by one, they came to Rockefeller. They said they were ready. 10 years passed. We reached the year 1880. In that year, 90% of oil refining in America was in Rockefeller's hands. A monopoly was created. This monopoly was the largest in the world at that time. This monopoly made him extremely rich. He began buying railway operations in many parts of America. He told the railway companies this: "I pay more than everyone else. You should carry only my goods." By doing this, he raised railway transport prices. Other factories were affected badly. They started to complain. They said, "How can we transport our products now?" The protests became very serious. Finally, the U.S. government stepped in. When the U.S. government stepped in, they saw that a monopoly existed. They realized that in this situation, the owner of a monopoly could do whatever he wanted. The U.S. Congress became active. They started working on laws against monopolies. But John moved faster than the U.S. government. As soon as he understood that the government wanted to pass anti-monopoly laws, he took action. In the state of New Jersey, he created a trust. A trust meant this: Standard Oil turned itself into 40 different companies. In the end, all the rights and control still belonged to Rockefeller. But the law did not count this as a monopoly. Because there were 40 different companies, on paper, they were competing with each other. In the year 1890, John D. Rockefeller owned 220,000 oil wells. He had built 6,500 kilometers of oil pipelines in the United States. More than 10,000 Americans were working for Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company. Rockefeller had built an empire. He had built it at the best possible time because no other oil fields had yet been discovered in the world. But when we reach the 20th century, oil becomes more valuable in the world. Ships and cars are developing. different countries start looking for oil. In Russia and in parts of Asia, oil had been found here and there. But the first major oil well in the world was discovered on May 26, 1908, in Iran. It was discovered by William Knox Darcy, an Englishman. He had received the oil extraction rights from the Qajar government. Now, let us go back to Rockefeller. Around the 1890s, oil was becoming more and more valuable. Oil wells were being discovered in different parts of the world. Because of this, Rockefeller's income started to decrease. But Standard Oil was not a company that could be easily damaged. Standard Oil, in the year 1890, was worth about $1 trillion in today's money. John D. Rockefeller had gained so much power in America that he was not worried about oil being found in other places or about new competitors appearing. He had so much money that he even lent money to the U.S. government. His wealth kept growing until the end of his life. When John D. Rockefeller died in 1937, his wealth was estimated at about $4,000 billion. This made him the richest businessman in the history of the world. The second most influential person in America was Henry Ford. Henry Ford was born in 1863 in Michigan. His father was a farmer. Henry saw how hard farming was and began to hate it. His home was close to Detroit, the most important industrial city in America. This helped Henry become familiar with industry and technology. From a young age, he loved technical work. He enjoyed opening machines and understanding how they worked. At 14, he saw a steam engine for the first time, and he tried to learn how it worked. At 16, he worked in a mechanical workshop. At 17, he saw a gasoline engine that was made in Germany. He understood the fuel system, but not the electrical part. So he decided to learn electricity. He worked at Edison Electric in Detroit. He worked well and became the managing director at 28. There he built his first gasoline engine. Then he put it on a cart and made his first car. Henry Ford's first car was made in 1896. It was called the quadricycle. The car had no radiator at first, and it got hot quickly, but it was finally fixed. A customer offered Henry Ford $200 for his car. Henry sold it and decided to build a better one. He built another quadricycle to test and improve it. In 1899, he started the Ford Motor Company. Investors trusted him because he had worked with Edison before. But production was slow. In 2 years, they built only 220 cars. The company did not make profit. Investors took their money and left. The factory failed, and Henry became poor again. But he did not give up. He kept thinking about how to increase production. While designing a better car, he also imagined a new idea. This idea was the production line. It became one of the most important inventions of the 20th century. Henry wanted to build a car that ordinary people could buy. Before this, cars were only for the rich. In 1908, the Ford Model T was introduced. It was simple, cheap, and only black to reduce costs. The price was $850. In 1 week, 25,000 orders were placed. Orders were very high, and Ford could not deliver all cars in the first year. Still, he delivered 17,000 cars. He opened a much bigger factory with a larger production line. Henry Ford focused day and night on making production faster. Production increased every year. By 1911, over 220,000 Model T cars were delivered. By 1916, Ford was producing 500,000 cars per year. As costs went down, Ford lowered prices. The Model T price dropped from $850 to about $360. Henry Ford wanted ordinary people to own cars. At that time, more than 60% of cars in America were Ford Model T. By the late 1920s, other companies began to compete with Ford. Companies like Dodge, Chrysler, and General Motors entered the market. At that time, Dodge and Chrysler were separate companies. During this period, Henry Ford was one of the richest people in the world, but he was not richer than John D. Rockefeller or Andrew Carnegie. Henry Ford became a global inspiration. Adolf Hitler admired him and even kept his photo in his office. Henry Ford led his company until the age of 81. During World War II, Ford factories produced bomber airplanes because the country needed large-scale production. In 1945, due to heart problems, he handed the company over to his grandson, Henry Ford II, because his son had died from cancer the year before. Henry Ford did not enjoy retirement. 2 years later, in 1947, he died from a heart attack. Today, Ford Motor Company is one of the largest car companies in the world. The company belongs to shareholders, but the Ford family still has strong power in it. They control about 40% of the company. Ford produces cars on 5 continents. Some of its products are among the best-selling vehicles in the world. The third man who helped make America powerful was Cornelius Vanderbilt. Cornelius Vanderbilt was born in 1794 on Staten Island, New York. His parents were poor Dutch immigrants. He left school at age 11 to help his family and worked in a boat company with his father. He believed working for a small salary was not enough. The men who built America. The third man who helped make America powerful was Cornelius Vanderbilt. Cornelius Vanderbilt was born in 1794 on Staten Island, New York. His parents were poor Dutch immigrants. He left school at age 11 to help his family and worked in a boat company with his father. He believed working for a small salary was not enough. He wanted his own business. He borrowed $100 from his mother to buy a small boat. Even with little education, he already had a strong business mindset. He quickly realized that if he wanted to work in these waters, he had to offer a good price so customers would choose him. So he set his prices lower than everyone else. Customers came to him one after another. When Cornelius Vanderbilt bought his first boat, he was only 16 years old. Very soon he earned the $100 back and returned the money to his mother. After that, he saved every dollar he earned. He bought another boat, then another, then another. The number of his boats grew fast. Believe it or not, before he even turned 18, he owned more than 10 small and large boats. Dozens of people were working for him. When he reached the age of 18, something important happened. War started between the United States and England. It was the War of 1812. This war was a continuation of America's independence conflicts with Britain. This war worked perfectly for Cornelius. The U.S. government made a contract with him. He was asked to transport military equipment from one side of the water to the other. This deal pushed his business much higher. He had many boats, and the government paid good money. So he started making serious profit. 1 year later, at the age of 19, Vanderbilt married his cousin. Her name was Sophia Johnson. She gave birth to 13 children for Vanderbilt. Cornelius Vanderbilt did not care much about his wife or his 13 children. He spent almost all his time making money and became distant from his family. By the 1820s, he was already very rich, but he was not satisfied. He wanted more. During this time, steamboats entered the market. Vanderbilt immediately focused on them. They were faster, easier to manage, and more profitable than sailing boats. As steamboats replaced sailing boats, Vanderbilt became famous, but not in a good way. He was known as a ruthless businessman, not because he charged high prices, but because he lowered prices so much that other competitors went bankrupt. He even accepted losses for himself just to destroy his rivals and become the only one left. One by one, his rivals went bankrupt. Cornelius bought their boats very cheaply. This is how the number of his boats kept increasing. The reason Vanderbilt could lower prices so much was simple. He already had savings. He had a clear plan. He knew he could break prices for 1 year. Even if he lost money, he would not go bankrupt. His plan worked perfectly. All boat companies went bankrupt, except his own. Companies failed one after another, and Cornelius enjoyed it. He thought of it like a chess game. He believed he was removing the pieces one by one. His only goal was to win the whole game. Even though Cornelius Vanderbilt was richer than many wealthy people in New York, they did not accept him. They said he was uneducated. They said his accent was not New York style. They said he had no class. They told him, "You have new money, but we have old money." Vanderbilt did not care about these words. He said, "Fine, I will deal with all of you." He went back to his chessboard. He kept removing pieces one by one. He kept rising higher and higher. By the year 1840, Cornelius Vanderbilt was about 55 years old. He was extremely rich, but he was not satisfied at all. He said, "Now I must truly build my life." In 1849, Cornelius Vanderbilt recognized a new opportunity. It was the California Gold Rush. Many people were traveling from the east to California to find gold. Most gold seekers did not become rich. The real profit was in supporting them. Vanderbilt did not look for gold himself. He looked for business. He started a transport company to carry people from the eastern United States to California by ship. Because railroads were not complete, people preferred his ships. Cornelius Vanderbilt made huge profits during the California Gold Rush by transporting people by ship through Nicaragua to California. This became the largest migration in U.S. history. Nearly 500,000 people traveled this way. In 1853, he took a rare vacation to Europe. While he was away, his employees stole from him. When he found out, he stayed calm and warned them he would destroy them instead of suing. Cornelius Vanderbilt did not go to court. He said the law takes too long. He moved his main office to Nicaragua to pay less tax. The workers who stole his money were there. He used his power to cause problems in Nicaragua. The country became unstable and went toward war. The workers who stole from him were stuck there. His warning became real. At age 60, Cornelius Vanderbilt did not think about retirement. He wanted more growth. He saw the future in railroads. He sold all his ships at high prices and invested the money in railways. He wanted full control. He lowered prices, bankrupted other train companies, and bought their trains very cheaply. Cornelius Vanderbilt built his biggest empire in railroads, even though he started this business after age 60. Most of the money he ever made came from railroads. He lived until 1877 and died at the age of 82. When he died, newspapers said his wealth was $100 million. At that time, this was equal to more than $200 billion today. His wealth was so large that it was about 1/9 of all the money in America. He even had more money than the U.S. government treasury. Before his death, he decided how to divide his money. He had 13 children, but he believed only one was capable. So he left 90% of his wealth to his son, William Henry Vanderbilt. The other 12 children shared only 10%. He wrote that giving them more money would only destroy them. Although Cornelius Vanderbilt was known as a ruthless businessman and many other traders hated him, he is still remembered as one of the men who built America. On November 25, 1835, a boy was born in Dunfermline, Scotland. His name was Andrew Carnegie. Carnegie is known as one of the men who built America, alongside people like Henry Ford and Cornelius Vanderbilt. The Carnegie family was very poor. His father worked in a textile factory. He earned very little money. He could barely support the family. Then industry changed. Instead of improving life, it made things worse. Andrew's father earned even less. In 1848, Andrew's father sold everything they owned. He bought tickets to America for the whole family. They boarded a ship with only 220 pounds in their pocket and left for America. When they arrived, Andrew's father learned something important. If they went to Pittsburgh, they could find work and also find a place to live. Life in Pittsburgh was still hard for Andrew Carnegie's family. He saw his father struggling and left school to work. He got a job delivering telegrams. He was very smart and learned telegraph codes by age 17. A businessman named Thomas A. Scott noticed him and hired him with a much better salary. In 1861, the American Civil War began. Andrew Carnegie was starting to succeed in his career. He did not want to leave his job to join the army, so he paid $850 to send someone else in his place. At that time, this was a very large amount of money. During the war, enemy forces burned wooden bridges to stop the army. Andrew thought about this problem. He realized something important. If bridges were made of iron, they would not burn. He quickly started a company called Keystone Bridge Company. The company built iron bridges. The business grew fast. Soon, Andrew bought an iron factory. He began producing his own iron. Later, his factory produced iron not only for bridges, but also for railroads and buildings. In 1865, after the American Civil War ended, Andrew Carnegie moved his company to New York. He believed the business could grow faster there. Even though New York helped his business, he later wrote that he did not trust the people there. Carnegie used the invention of Henry Bessemer in his iron factories. This allowed him to produce steel instead of iron. Carnegie's steel changed cities like New York. The first skyscrapers were built using this steel. Without steel, building tall buildings would not have been possible. Henry Bessemer had invented his method years earlier, but most people believed it would not work. Andrew Carnegie was the first person who truly believed in this invention and used it seriously. Carnegie built the first major steel factory in the world. One of his key ideas was this. He hired the best engineers and architects to get the highest production in the shortest time with top quality. Later, Henry Ford used the same idea in car manufacturing, but at this time, Ford was not yet born. Carnegie was very harsh in business. He believed there was no time to stop work. Workers had to work more than 10 hours a day for 364 days a year. Anyone who could not keep up was fired. Andrew Carnegie gave workers only one holiday a year. That day was July 4, Independence Day. There was no holiday for Christmas, Thanksgiving, or New Year. He even wrote that he wished workers were like machines because machines do not need sleep. Carnegie became extremely rich. Newspapers supported him and often praised him for helping workers and the poor. Even though he left school early, Carnegie studied a lot. He knew everything about steel. His customers did not know much about steel, so Carnegie used very complex words to describe his products. People were too embarrassed to ask what those words meant. They simply believed his steel was better. In reality, his steel was high quality, and his method worked. Carnegie had the highest steel sales. Andrew Carnegie supplied steel for bridges, buildings, and most railroad tracks in America. He lowered prices so much that other steel companies could not compete. They sold their factories to him one by one. Even as he became richer, he did not care about his workers. Safety was very poor, and many workers died each year. In public, he said workers should be treated better, but in reality, he ignored strikes and working conditions. Andrew Carnegie talked about caring for workers, but he did not act on it. Workers had no other jobs and had to stay. At age 70, after many years of work, he decided to stop and sell his factories. J.P. Morgan offered to buy them. Carnegie asked for $480 million. Morgan accepted immediately. Carnegie sold everything and became extremely rich. J.P. Morgan changed the name of Carnegie Steel and called it U.S. Steel. It became the first major steel company in the world, and it still exists today. Andrew Carnegie was very harsh with his workers, but even so, he is remembered as an important man who helped America grow. He did not understand that to keep an empire strong, workers also need to be satisfied. Because of this, he was forced to sell his company and leave. In 1837, in Connecticut, a boy was born named J.P. Morgan. He was the last man among the builders of America. Unlike the others, J.P. Morgan was born into a very rich family. His father was a successful banker in London. But his father did not give him free money. He wanted J.P. to learn how to earn it himself. Even for small money, J.P. had to work. J.P. Morgan had a hard childhood. He was often sick. He had infections and constant coughing. Even with wealth around him, his life was not easy. In the 19th century, doctors could not treat J.P. Morgan properly. He lived for many years with a lung infection. When he was 19, he recovered by himself. Even while sick, he studied in the best schools. After he became healthy, He looked for a job on Wall Street. Because he was the son of a famous banker, he was hired quickly. When his father found out, he warned him not to use the family name. In 1859, at age 22, J.P. Morgan took a big risk. He bought a ship of Brazilian coffee and sold it the same day with profit. Even though he made money, his company and his father criticized him. They said he took a dangerous risk. Morgan disagreed. He quit the job and left. J.P. Morgan believed others were too afraid to become great businessmen. He was very confident in himself. He started his own business. A few months later, he married a woman named Amelia Sturgis. Sadly, she died only 4 months later from tuberculosis. Morgan was deeply hurt. To forget his pain, he focused completely on work. During this time, the American Civil War began. Because he was 24, he was called to serve. Like many rich people then, he paid someone else to go to war in his place. During the American Civil War, J.P. Morgan became rich, just like Andrew Carnegie and Cornelius Vanderbilt. One way he made money was this. He bought old and broken army weapons for about $3.5 each. He repaired them and sold them back to the government for about $22 each. This brought him very high profit. By the early 1870s, J.P. Morgan was already very rich, but his father was still not satisfied. He said, "You still have a long way to go." This pushed Morgan to work harder and try to become even more successful than his father. J.P. Morgan partnered with Anthony Drexel and started a private bank. This bank later became J.P. Morgan Chase. From 1871, Morgan's power grew fast. He invested heavily in railroads, especially those owned by Cornelius Vanderbilt. After Vanderbilt died, his son could not manage the business well. This allowed Morgan to take control of much of the railroad system in the western United States. If Cornelius Vanderbilt had been alive, he would not have allowed J.P. Morgan to take control of the railroads. Because of the poor management of William Henry Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt's monopoly collapsed. As a result, 1/3 of America's railroad power fell into J.P. Morgan's hands. At this time, Morgan was 42 years old and was already a major American financier, but his father still told him that he had a long way to go. He may have been proud, but he never showed it. During this time, J.P. Morgan learned about a man named Thomas Edison. Morgan researched his work and realized Edison had an important invention. He quickly decided to invest in him. When Morgan started working with Edison, Edison Electric was very small. With Morgan's money and support, the company grew quickly. Because of Morgan's investment, Edison was able to electrify the first city in the United States. The first electrified area was part of Manhattan. Nikola Tesla played an important role in this progress, but he did not receive much credit or money. Because J.P. Morgan was the main investor, he told Thomas Edison that the company name must change. So, Edison Electric was renamed General Electric. This company became a giant, and it still exists today. In 1893, a big economic crisis hit the United States. People sold dollars and bought gold. The dollar lost value. Stocks fell. The economy collapsed. This crisis created a rare opportunity. J.P. Morgan saw it clearly. He knew he could help the government and stop the collapse. Morgan bought $650 million of gold bonds from the U.S. government. At that time, this was an enormous amount of money. His action helped save the U.S. economy. At the same time, his own power and wealth increased greatly. These 5 men were different, but they shared something. They saw opportunities early. They took risks. They built systems, not just businesses. Oil, cars, railroads, steel, banking. Together, they turned America into a superpower. Please leave a comment and tell us what ideas you have for the next videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe.